to find this place or we'll be late.
Make a left on Astrology Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant right. It should be right here. 444 Spearway. Oh, turn.
It looks like Renee. Yay, we're on time. The James and Kellee Show.
Great, let's start the show.
Tonight's show is all about the intelligence of the spirit world.
Not the physical world.
Obviously not the human physical world, because things, but yeah, and when I was researching this, looking into some things I've done for the past in my research, it's just so hard, Kellee, to talk about in some ways the immensity of this. So we're just going to dumb it down for us humans in this tiny little box, which is something quite enormous, but we'll do the best we can.
Yes.
So when you talk about the intelligence of the spirit world, what do you think?
What do I think? I
Yeah.
think about, well, actually, we started talking about it this afternoon.
We did.
After your show today, which
Yes.
I'd love you to tell the story, and which is why we played the clip.
Yes. Okay, so what we were talking about was also the intelligence of the spirit world, in that we have to first remember we're never alone, that there's always a force. There's a force around us, and the universe does conspire for our highest good, always. We're never just alone. There's always the unseen world. And there's always synchronistic experiences and patterns and coincidences where things seem to just play out in the weirdest, and we've all had those very weird things happen. It's like, how did that happen? Because they're really pulling the strings on the other side of life. The universe pulls strings. I don't know how they do it. We don't know how, even mediums, we don't know how they do that, but there's a way of doing it. So we played Talking to Heaven because that to me was, well, I think all of our careers, all of our destiny, we have destiny points that we come back to, go through various destiny points to learn various lessons. Some come back to heal, to enlighten, to share. We come back for all different reasons. And I heard very early on in my life from a psychic when I was 18. She said, James, you're on your right path if things go smoothly. You're not on your right path if doors close and you have to go the other way. Then you're not listening to your higher self, which is true. Anyway, to make a long story short about Talking to Heaven, the book came out and it was the #1 book. And this is just a weird story as we're doing it. And NBC television bought the rights to the book, and they were going to make a movie out of it. And they had the book for quite a while, and then the option gate came up that they had to give it away, and CBS bought it immediately. So CBS bought that, and they hired a writer, John Pillmeyer, who did Agnes of God on Broadway, and lovely man. I worked with him for many months. He really worked with me, and I with him. We shared ideas, and it was great. He helped me write it really with him. Well, everything was magical. I mean, it was magical in that, God, the writer, the first writer that was on this script, he was on a plane. And he's sitting there writing the script in the plane, and there's an empty seat next to him, and a lady sits down, and this woman is Mary Steenburgen, and she told me later that her father in the spirit world said, you need to speak to him. And she said, I never like to speak to people on planes, but he pushed me. So I said, hi, how are you? And he goes, good. She goes, what are you writing? He goes, it's so strange you're sitting next to me because I'm writing this script based on the book Talking to Heaven. And she said, oh, it's my favorite book. I've given it to so many people. And he said, it's just so weird because this character I have is you, and I pictured you doing this character, which is very weird. And she thought it was strange. And she said, can I meet the author? You know him? I can arrange that. So again, make long story short, I met with Mary and Ted Danson at their house and did a reading for them. And I don't do a lot of readings, but I wanted to do that because she favored the book and she loved the book and so forth. Anyway, I did this reading very, very successfully. Ted didn't believe in this at all. I could tell you because he spoke with us on television. He said, James, I really don't believe it. I said, that's okay, Ted. Whatever happens, happens. During the course of the reading, his father came through and he said, the father said, Ted, I'm in my herringbone jacket and I'm in front of the fireplace with a glass of whiskey. Now, you know I'm in heaven if that's what I look like and I'm saying to you. And Ted was sitting on an ottoman, at which point, after I said that, Ted fell off the ottoman onto the floor. And I'm looking at him saying, oh, God, what did I just do to Ted dance? What did I say? Anyway, after the reading, after that night, Ted came up to me and he said, James, that was incredible. My father used to wear that herringbone jacket every afternoon he came home from work. He'd put that on, sit in front of the fireplace, and have a whiskey. I said, wow. He goes, no, James, he died that way. He died of a massive heart attack with that. So the next day, I got a phone call from the production company who was talking to heaven, and they said to me, James, we're having a problem casting this role of the medium. And I said, really? Why? He goes, well, we tried Gary Sinise and some other people. No one wanted to play a medium back in '98. And they said, Les Moonves at the time said, they told him, there's one more person I'm going to try. He has a contract with us. He's playing Becker right now, Ted Danson. And I said, that's so weird. I was just with him last night. Now, what are the odds, right? And the producer said, can you call him and ask him? I said, no, I cannot do that. I can't cross that line. It's confidential. And then what happened was Ted heard about the movie, and he called me up and I said, well, Ted, it's up to you, but I think you really should do it because it'll open up a lot of minds and hearts of millions of people. So he agreed to do that. And the rest of his history. I went on the set in Vancouver, and I remember the first time I've been on a movie set, and there were all these trucks, production trucks. And I looked on the side of the trucks and it said, Driscoll. Well, that's my mother's maiden name, Driscoll. And then it was strange. And the first thought I had, well, I'm so happy that I'm able to, all these people are going to work, that I'm able in some way to bring these people to work and have money coming in. And then I looked around the set during a break, and there was a little James room, and he's 5 years old. And the wallpaper in the room is the exact wallpaper I had as a child in my room in Queens in New York. Exactly. And then sitting next to the table, the side table, the bed table, was a picture of Saint Teresa, who was my mother's patron saint. I'm like, okay, I got this now. And then during the whole thing, Diane Ladd played my mother. And Diane Ladd, I spoke to her on the phone once, and I said, Dan, I saw the dailies. You were amazing. How did you know? You walked like my mother had a stroke on the right side. I didn't tell anybody about that. She goes, no, your mother did. So that's why I played it that way. No one knew that.
Oh my
And then
God.
it was one thing after another, and it was just everyone loved that movie. It's like the book, and that's really where Ghost Whisperer started, because that movie was such a success. The miniseries was the top-rated CBS miniseries in history, besides Jesus. Jesus was number one. This was number two, and because of that, they asked me, "Can you create a series?" And that's where, well, I'm sorry, I'm skipping Kelly. After
No.
that, it was so successful they wanted to do another movie, so we did The Deadwood Tale, starring Eva Longoria. Um, Eva Longoria was in that, and before she was Eva Longoria was Anne Heche, and Eva Longoria. Now, before Eva Longoria, I went down to New Orleans when they were taping or shooting it, and it was during a break. And this girl comes over to me, a very pretty girl, and she goes, "Can I ask you a question, Mr. Van Praagh?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "I just finished a pilot. Do you think it'll be successful?" I'm like, well, and I said, "It's going to change your life." Well, 2 or 3 years later, I was on this at Universal, and Ghostbusters stage was right next to Desperate Housewives. Right? And I'm in the Universal at lunch there, having some lunch there at a table, and looked, and there's Eva Longoria walking down the aisle, and we both look at each other at the exact same time, and we both started screaming. And I ran over to her and said, "Well, did it change your life?" The rest is history. And there are more and more things like that. But we've all had those. But that was intense. And that was almost a sense that it was kind of obviously destined to happen.
Yeah.
But I think when we follow that destiny, when we follow our light and we're aligned with it, those things do happen. I do believe
And
that.
your destiny was to be able to help the world with that there is no such thing as death. And so
Right.
it's funny how we see things. It's often easier to see them in a movie. And
That's
you
right.
had, I think they all transpired or conspired to make this
Inspired.
happen.
Everyone. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone. And I
Wow.
think so, the intelligence of the spirit world, I think it goes way, way beyond us. I think it goes way beyond us. It's just like you can't
Don't
even.
you think it has to do with before we incarnate, we are looking at our soul contracts and what we're going to do in this world, and that they're on the other side, they're looking at our contracts and saying, okay, everybody, now we need to have this happen, and we've got to put faith in this person and some hope over here.
100%. Kelly, I always go back to the analogy of a play, putting a
Yeah.
play on, putting a stage show. Like Shakespeare said, the world is, really players upon the stage. And it's so true, because I think that we, on the other side, before we come in, we create this play, if you will, and we have the different characters, and we look at based upon the characters we played in other lifetimes and how they really influence the characters in the play. And this time the role will be, the mother will be played by this person, the grandma this person. You played the daughter last time, now you're going to play the son who commits suicide, or whatever it is. And each character has their role, and
Mhm.
it's really to move that play forward, to move that, if you will, the lives forward of growth and understanding and lessons about compassion and love. And I think that we live by example. I think that we teach others and help others by our example of how we live. That's really, I think, the best way we can do.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you think the best way, or how do you think the way the universe shows us some intelligence from the other side? How do you get signs?
Well, I just all the time. I'm just for number one, you have to be open. You have to be open to the magic because magic happens all the magic is in the moments. Magic happens in the moment. So you can be open to it and don't describe something. Don't predetermine something. Don't have unrealistic expectations about something. Just being in the moment, living in that moment,
Yeah.
and you'll begin to see the magic of the moment. Because if we think about the past and we have regrets, or our mind is always in the past, we're going to miss out in that moment. Or again, the future. We worry about the future, that worry energy there, we're not going to see the moment. We're going to be too caught up in the future. So I think it's better being in the moment. And I love the art of discovery. Every day I wake up and say, wow, what magic is going to happen today? What am I going to learn today? Who's going to teach me something? How am I going to change your life? In some way, how am I change your life? And it's great. And I get excited when that happens during the day. I get excited about
Well,
that.
and we had a fun moment when we both hopped
Oh
on
my
and
gosh,
we're
it's
preparing
crazy.
purple today.
I can't. It's so those things which happen so outrageous that you're like,
Yeah.
how can that happen like that? So.
We're 2,000 miles apart. So it wasn't like I said, did you get the memo?
And I had a blue shirt, and I took it off, and that does not work well.
Yeah.
I looked at my closet of 60, 70 shirts I have. Yeah, purple.
That was it. Today was the purple day. Well, I have to read you this quote. I love this quote by Deepak Chopra, and he says, coincidences, they're clues from the universe. He says, once you understand the way that life really works with the flow of energy, information, and intelligence that directs every moment, then you begin to see the amazing potential in that moment. He says, mundane things just don't bother you anymore. You become lighthearted and full of joy.
Oh,
You also begin to encounter more and more coincidences in your life. He says, this is a state I call synchrodestiny, which I thought was
I love that.
wonderful.
And it's
Yeah.
another way we say it is tuning into you're getting in tune or aligned with your higher self, your higher purpose, your higher self, living from the higher self, not the lower self, which is the human, but the higher self. Um,
Do you think that once you get in that zone of working with your higher self and becoming more of your higher self, that you see more coincidences, more synchronicity, more magic? Yeah.
I'm a living example of that. In that
Yeah.
I try to live that way all the time, and when I do, it's just incredible. And if you are positive all the time, we have a mutual friend, Jordy Fisher in Ohio, and I've never met anyone in my life who's all positive as could be. We joked about it yesterday because she said to when Kelly and a couple of years back, and Kelly met Jordy at my party I had, and Jordy lives in Ohio, and Kelly's moving to Wisconsin. And you said, Jordy, what's it like in the winter? And what'd she say?
You said it's where my soul renews.
In
So
the
we've had a
cold
lot of
snow.
we've had a lot of renewal going on right now, but she reframed it for me. And now I look at the birds, I look at the snow, and I actually went walking in the snow today. Thank you, Peggy Fitzsimmons, if you're listening. I
So
actually did it.
there's always a positive in the scenario. No matter what that scene is that you're playing, there's a positive. And we got to remind ourselves always to stay the positive because the
Yeah.
negative is kind of like limiting, if you will. It's dense, it's limiting, and it brings us down. I think, besides faith and courage, and it's just to bring ourselves up. I had a lady today in soul care, and it was like, and she was down and she was blaming herself and she wasn't happy. I said, it's not no one else's responsibility to make you happy but yourself. You
Mm,
have to. No one will, that we can show you the door, but you have to walk through it. And
yeah.
we have to take responsibility to give ourselves joy, to love ourselves. And if it's like just it is what it is, and that's all that it is. I mean, really, life is tough. It's hard. We all know that it's really hard. Don't make it harder on yourself than it needs to be, because we
Yeah.
don't need to. I read something from about universal intelligence. I wanted to share from Tom Atley, and he said there is something about the universe, an elegant order in the way everything fits and unfolds, an inexplicable beauty in its living patterns, and the mysterious depth and expressiveness of it all that reminds us of the brilliance we see in the works of great artists, scientists, engineers, and saints. Some people believe that human intelligence is a pinnacle of natural evolution and can undo anything nature has to offer, and that there is no God, and that nature has nothing remotely resembling consciousness or intelligence. Others say the nature of God's brilliance is greater than any human intelligence, ultimately awesome in its scope and endlessly surprising in its details, and that human intelligence is a small but elegant expression of the larger intelligence, as much to learn from. And it goes on. He talks also about, and something we got to be very, very careful of, because when people start talking about the intelligence of the universe or spirit, religion gets involved. Many people fall back to religion and dogmas and creeds. And listen, that's one way to look at things, but I think it goes way beyond religions or belief systems. I think it's some.
Yeah.
I think those are, I don't know, dogma, creeds, belief systems you have to go through, or you've gone through many lifetimes in religions, and you're working that out. I did. I grew up Catholic, and I'm very happy I did. But at one point, it was like, it's done. 14 years
Mhm.
of age, I heard a voice say, "God is much bigger than these four walls. Get out of this church and go."
Well, and let's talk about that. You actually heard it, right? You
I heard it.
actually
I was
heard
in
it.
seminary. I was at
Mhm.
pre-seminary. I was 14 years old. I was going to be a priest, and we had all the students had to go one at a time at the altar space and kind of meditate, contemplate, and it was during Easter weekend, and I went there and I sat and I was always when I went to church as a small child, I was always aware of beings around me, always aware of the energy around me, and I heard a clear voice say, God is much bigger than these four walls. You'll only find God outside these four walls, and I left that seminary like that.
Oh, but some people, one of the things that they can do is they can actually hear messages. You can, talk about the intelligence of the other side. You can actually hear it. I'll never forget when I was in college, I actually heard in my head and loudly a voice, and it said to me, "You can do this now, or you can do this later." And I said, "What? I can do what now or later?" Then I heard it again. "You can do this now, or you can do this later." I said, "What?" And then all of a sudden, I looked at this man, this young man across from me, and I heard, "You're going to marry him." And I went, "No, no." And I backed up. I was like, "That is that one? No, I don't think so." And that's exactly what happened. Didn't last long, but I had heard it. You can do it now or
Sure,
later. And I think it was really a karmic moment. You
sure,
know, how the universe works. You can do this now, or maybe in a few months, or 10 years, or another lifetime, you can
sure.
do this, but it's going to get done. I could hear it.
Sure, and we're always given choices too. And
Yeah.
again, the more you open, the more like you are, the more you open, the more you'll hear them, the more they'll
Yeah.
manifest for you. It's so true. Well, we got to be very careful. I find in my work that I've done all these years that the humanness of us doesn't get in the way and block truth. For instance, this is just one. For instance, there's many different thoughts here, but many times audience members will ask me about suicide, or they'll ask
Mm,
me about um, earthbound spirits. And listen, I did a show about it, Ghost
yeah.
Whisperer. It's a way of thinking. But honestly, my friend, a person I work with, another medium from England, an associate in Lynn Probert, who I've worked with, she answered this question when audience members said, what about earthbound spirits? And she sat there and she said, "What do you mean earthbound spirits? Do you think the intelligence of the spirit world would let someone just wander aimlessly in these vast places, would not bringing them home? Do you think that would be? And you think someone want to stay in those places and not go home?" And that was a very interesting insight. And
I
Gordon
love
Smith,
it.
another British medium,
Mhm.
he answered the audience member. I was with him on this show. It was great. He said, "Darling, earthbound spirits, darling, the only ones that earthbound are you. We're the earthbound ones. They're all in spirit. We're the earthbound ones." That's true. We are earthbound. But we've got to be very careful that we don't put our human belief systems onto a sense of a spiritual essence, if you will, because we
Yes.
get caught up in those dogma,
Mhm,
creed, laws of the human,
mhm.
the conditions of the human, and we apply them to a spirit, and it doesn't work that way.
Well, it slows the energy down.
It slows it's fear-based. Many times
It's
it's fear-based.
fear-based.
It's
Yeah.
limiting. It's
Mhm.
limiting. And
Yeah.
and we really I think the secret is every day to just enjoy yourself, joy within self, and realize everything's happening for a reason. Even when things look really bad, which I've had a bad year last year, it's
Mhm,
causing us to stop, go
mhm.
within, think, "What's going on here? Let me assess this." Don't waste that moment, because once you
Right,
pass through the spirit, you look back and say, "Why did I waste that moment of assessment where I could have really
right.
looked inside myself and really know what's going on?" So don't waste those moments, because those are the magical, those are those pivotal moments in your life for
Mhm.
that you're given to reassess your choices, what you think of yourself, the people around you, your values, and so forth.
Well, it's funny you use the term reassess because Mercury
Mm.
is retrograde right now until February
Is it,
20th.
Kelly? I couldn't
It
tell when there's
is,
no voices at the beginning of the yeah.
and
Is it? I
exactly,
can't
and you
everybody's like, "Well, our heads are spinning anyway from last year, so Mercury retrograde's nothing compared to"
but
right.
it's what you just said. It's to reassess, realign, redo, review, all of these things that with an RE in front of them. And now is a great time for everybody to really reassess, re-understand what you're doing, who you are, what in the world, what are you feeling right now energetically? Because energy right now is coming through for everybody. And what's out there spiritually for you? It's a wonderful time to assess that. What's going on spiritually?
How I'm doing that, and I don't know how everyone has it differently, but I work at my where I live, and I have gardens here, and I'm redoing the gardens, the
Yes.
landscaping. But I also feel like it's given me life to redo these. It's given me excitement in life. And I feel like when I'm in that spiritual space of renewal, I'm on top of a mountain and I'm excited about the new beginning. I'm writing a new book. I'm so excited about that. All these different things. I'm starting new creative things and it's new. There's a newness, renewal,
Right.
sure. And it's
Yeah.
exciting, renewal. It's really exciting.
And the more you create, James, the more magic comes through, the more signs from the universe, the more everything start to line up again, right?
Because you're giving it space to
Yes.
materialize and manifest.
Yeah.
You're giving it space.
Yeah.
You're giving permission to show it to me. I'm here. I'm ready. But when we get in the way of that, we limit it.
And it
We can't
fits.
see
It
clearly.
fits. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't see
Yeah.
clearly. It's very, very true.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Oh, that's interesting. Somebody says, Donna Peach says, I have not been happy for over 20 years. Well,
Well,
Donna,
why?
come
Donna, what? I
on.
think Donna was the one that called today in soul, the
Oh,
soul care. Donna, we went to this afternoon. So why aren't you happy? Like you're the only one that can make yourself happy. You can blame others, but when you pass over and you have your life review, you can't say my mother screwed around, my father screwed around me, I was abused. Guess what?
right,
You got to answer for yourself. Even though you had those conditions in your life, which you picked
right.
before you came back, you are the one who really has to take charge and be responsible for yourself.
Absolutely. Maria Carp Diem says, can spirit guides, angels, or loved ones on the other side help us with the creative projects, such as
You
writing
bet
a
they
book?
can. Oh, of course
Yeah.
they do all the time, but we have to help them to help us. How about that? Well, I
I
like
love
that.
that.
Thanks, Spirit. I'm just channeling this because it's true. We got to help them to help us. So
Which would be open.
be open to
Mhm.
possibilities, giving them energy, saying, I'm open to whatever happens, putting yourself through, I'm going to sit down and write today. You do what you have to do to help them. Don't just say,
Yes.
I'm ready. And I've seen that before. I'm ready. Where are they? You got to do
Oh
your
my
part.
God. Well,
You've
that's like
seen that.
when I do a reading for somebody, I'm ready. Oh, it just closes the energy.
You can't do spiritual bypass. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. It doesn't work. You
Yeah.
gotta go through the process of it. It's true.
Yeah, that's so true. But, expressing joy and living in the moment and being joy and being positive, that's when spirits can't wait to give you messages.
True. And I wanna go back to what this man says, Kelly. Excuse me.
Yeah.
This is a great one. A couple of things I gotta read this. Humility is naturally an excellent place to begin our efforts to cooperate with the universal intelligence. Humility in this case simply means an honest appreciation of our own limitations and a real respect for the ancient and awesome wisdom of the greater intelligence, which we've embedded. Humility means starting from a place without arrogance, with flexible certainties, a place of respect, curiosity, wonder, and the willingness to learn. In every situation, we can manage it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And, things show up when they're supposed to show up. Like if we talk about something next, there it is. This is
Yes.
again, you're working with the universal intelligence. There it is. It's
Yes.
manifested. Those,
Yes.
those, those signs, you're cooperating with the universe.
So Sue Carson says, do you feel like you become more open as you get older?
I say
Some
yes.
people.
Some
I
people.
think, so some close up, some open. Some children are so open. Some, kindergartners, they're so open. And then sometimes you shut down a little when you're older, but I feel that I've opened up even more so
Oh,
as
with
I
that,
get
I do
older.
too. I do too. But there again, the more people that who are older, they close down, they become
Mhm.
cynical, and become
That's
angry, and
it.
they have regrets. And it's like, and you can't do that. You can't do that. Stop beating
Right.
yourselves up. One more thing. I'm sorry, Kelly. Letting go is another part of cooperating with the universal intelligence. Letting go. Being unattached to outcome. Realizing we're not
That's
in
it.
control. Hello.
Yeah.
Not being in control doesn't mean that we don't have a significant role. Indeed, our influence is part of what shapes the unfolding of whatever happens next. But that is influence and not control. So, influence, not control. And
Yeah.
sometimes more, sometimes less. And always participatory, not unilateral. This also means leave behind blame and shame and reconceptualizing responsibility as our another actual role in the events in which
Yeah.
all of us have roles. Take responsibility. We're just talking about this.
That's very true. Take responsibility.
Take responsibility.
You know?
I'm tired of changing diapers. I can't do it
Oh,
anymore.
oh my God.
No more adult diapers. I can't change it. Really, that joke like, oh,
Oh,
I had a client, and I'm like, and
yeah, we talk
people,
about that one a lot.
well, we did it for with the last show we did, with people, helping people, and they won't get it. It's like, come on, take
Yeah.
responsibility. Life's too short. Gotta have fun. Get on that ride because it's gonna be over before you know it. Right?
Yes, yes, yes. And I wanted to say this, that synchronicity was a term actually originally coined by Carl Jung, who was a wonderful psychologist. And what was so amazing about him is he was very spiritual, James. He was one of the
Mhm.
first spiritual psychologists ever
Mm.
back in the day. I mean, really spiritual. And he talks about synchronicity as meaningful
Mm.
coincidences.
Oh, that's
Meaningful.
great. That's great. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Significance. Yeah, yeah. When you get that significance and you feel it in your bones, you feel there's something there. It's like, oh, I get
Yes,
this. I'm singing this song. This appeals to me. It resonates here.
yes, yes.
Your soul sings.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. Um, this is fun. Let's see here. I
It's
choose
a great
love.
topic. I choose love. When you
Yeah.
choose love, you open the door to magic. You start life.
Yes.
Miracles begin with love. That's really true. I have a
Yeah.
friend of mine who I'm working with this garden, and she's so funny. She's really today's her birthday. Real quirky character, and I love her. And she hurt her wrist. She had pins put in a couple of months
Oh,
back, and I helped her with that healing it. And she goes, "It really worked." A day later, the doctor said, "What happens?" Oh, just there we are. And then today, sure, her wrist. Oh, you got to put that cast on, and they're going to help you. Sure enough, he called me. They did. It's good. So we got to be open to the magic and
yes.
love. And you're not going to have miracles if you go, I don't feel good. I'm
No,
not
you
happy.
don't.
No,
Well,
you
and
close the door.
Cindy Gonzalez says, I've been experiencing so many messages popping up. Coincidence? I think not, but they've had me so emotional. So often, what I've noticed too with coincidences or synchronicities, it will get you, it'll touch your soul. So your soul will feel overwhelmed or emotional. My niece Peggy, I have to tell you, James, this is just blows me away. As of yesterday, so it's every day it's added up. She lives on a farm down the street from me. She now has 19 red cardinals in
You
her
showed me
front.
pictures. You sent me some
And that
photographs.
was at 15. Now we're at 19. Now
Come
this
on.
just and so when I think about that, I think about God, I think about the universe. I get so excited because I know that souls are around and they want to help and they want us to lead a life of love and joy. It's
And
fabulous.
what's the totem for that? Does it?
Well, as a red cardinal is a loved one. A loved one means that a loved one is visiting, and she
Yeah.
had 19 of them.
And that's again another way the spirit world is trying to get through to her, right? And
Yes.
so you said before about hearing, sometimes these things will happen. And
Yep.
also when we're open-minded, when we're in that space of open and present moment, you give the spirit world your mind is open. You give them the opportunity to take your mind and
Yeah.
focus your mind on something. So for instance, it might be that butterfly, it might be the hummingbird, and it might be a flower,
Right.
or it might be a sign that has, someone's name on it that you knew. Or so we're open to these manifestations that really helps
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
Help them. It's
Yes.
very, very true.
Any suggestions to changing our inner dialogue from negativity? Annalisa asks that. Yes. Stop it.
Stop.
Stop it. You
Yeah,
catch yourself every time.
and I have to ask why. Why do you put in negativity when in positivity is much it feels better? Um,
It
I,
does feel better, doesn't it?
yeah, I
Doesn't
think
it?
my friend Katrin Hall said it takes. She learned this from a scientist in a research study that was done. That one negative comment takes, gosh, it takes like 10 to 20 positive to one negative.
Ugh,
So imagine that. So walk
wow.
around with that. So
Yeah.
try to think of something happy and fun. I always go back to the childhood, a fun, happy moment when we're innocent and children. Sleigh riding, Kelly, the snow. But I remember sleigh riding down to the park I had, and it was to a pond, and we used to go all the time in the snow. We loved it. It was so much sleigh riding. It was so much fun. Skating down the street.
Did
Nice
you
skating
see
down.
the panda today? There's a
No.
panda at I think it was in Washington,
Yes,
D.C.
I
at
did
the
actually yesterday. Yes,
oh, so cute, sliding down. And when I watched that over and over and over
so
because it's
much
so
joy.
joy. Yeah.
And a puppy or a kitten, look at the joy they have.
Yes.
So when you say negative, why negative? What it doesn't get you anywhere, it stops you. It stops, it
Yeah.
halts you. So just
Well,
gotta
it
remind
does.
yourself, that's all. And after why you do what's motivating you to say negative things instead of positive
Right.
things.
Exactly. That's so true.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you,
Thank
Renee.
you, Dave. Thank you, Renee. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. God bless.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
That was great. Maybe we changed some lives.
And maybe opened up some minds.
Which Which way do I turn?
Right. I mean left.
The James and Kelly Show.